Hi, welcome to the third episode of what I look for when hiring UX and product designers. In the first two episodes, we talked a lot about what I look for junior and mid-level folks, as well as general things that I look for. In this third episode, I'm going to focus on things I look for more senior product and UX designers. My name is Dan Lindhout, been in the UX field for 25 years. Currently manage a team of product designers, UX researchers, and technical writers. I've been hiring lots of people at various companies over the past 10 years. So the first thing that I look for, and that I think every hiring manager looks for in a senior product designer, is really take a close look at the tenure of the different jobs they've had in the past. And if you see a tenure that is, around the year at most of those jobs, or maybe all of those jobs, anything less than 2 years really in a string, right? That's a bit of a red flag, right? That means, somebody might not have stuck around long enough to really work through those tough problems, to really evolve, a product through several cycles, and really left the company, before that time. Now, it's okay to have a number of short stints as long as there's a few longer ones in there. And longer ones, I mean, around 3 years or 3 to 5 years, right? I want to see at least, two of those, dependent on how long your career is. But one or two, really important. Short tenures, right, can be there for various reasons. One, I would say it's very hard to judge a company by its cover. Right, you might join a company and realize, it sounded like a great mission, but it actually in practice isn't that great. Or, it seemed like the team is really great to work with, but in practice, it isn't going that well. Or the hiring manager, right? I really thought I liked this person. I could really learn from them, but I joined and it turned out to be very different. Then that's fine, right? That can cause you to leave a company early. Of course, with everything going on recently, all the layoffs of tech companies, that might be another reason why you have a short tenure or several, right, in the mix, especially with startups, where, the company had to downsize and you were part of that, and, it was outside of your control. So fine, right, to see that. But I want to see at least, 1, 2, or 3 longer tenures in the mix, depending on how long your career has been. The next thing I look for, and this is a little bit controversial, is I look at the reviews on LinkedIn from your past colleagues, peers, and managers. And why I look at those is one, if you ask somebody for a reference or references, those are probably going to be the people that they tell you to go talk to. And two, those people, when you talk to them, will tell you something very similar as what they write on LinkedIn. And then 3, you can really tell, I think, the difference between what is kind of a courtesy review on LinkedIn and what is actually a good, review. I look for, people that have been successful themselves, who are writing reviews because they know, what good looks like. They know what great impact looks like. And I'm looking for things in those reviews that go beyond the, was a hard worker, delivered things on time, was a great collaborator. I want to hear things around was the best partner in product design I've ever had, or brought something really new to the company, was, a stellar collaborator on the team. So really things that jump out and that go from the courtesy, this was an okay or solid, product designer, UX designer, to the no, this is actually a really great, candidate and hire, and it's visible in there. The next thing I look for, and this is all around habits. So if you've been, in the field for a while, you are going to develop habits no matter what. Especially if you've been at one company or a few for longer periods of time, it's going to be specific things that worked well there that you've established. And that's great, right? This is all part of your toolbox that you bring to a new company. However, each company is different, right? So a lot of those methods, they might apply, but maybe not in the same way, or they might not apply at all, right, to this new company. So I always look for signs of flexibility and being open-minded to approaching things differently. Like, for example, a project where you took a certain approach in the past, it didn't actually work at that company. You were open and flexible to change your approach and genuinely, curious about how to learn and do things differently. That can also show up when you are, talking through how would you approach things at this particular company that you're interviewing for, asking good questions about what's the team like or the process like, to really give an answer that is more applicable to the current situation at this company, rather than just a list of recipes of what you've done in the past. So really want to see some flexibility. And I've seen, especially product or UX designers who've been at companies 10, 15 years come in with a very fixed mindset of how things should be done that can really be hard, to work through, especially for other disciplines. So for example, the product designer is really used to getting all the requirements from product management, buttoned up before they get started. And they're kind of strict on that. Like, I didn't get them, right? That might not apply, at the current company. There might be more of a collaborative environment to write, product requirements, which there should be. So it might not work here. So being flexible, being open to doing things differently is really, really important. The next thing I look for is, and this is really for all, I think, roles, not just senior ones, but it shows up in senior a bit more, and there's a lot more material there, which is be really transparent and open to what you contributed to a project in your portfolio. And as a senior designer, especially if you're a UX leader, right, you were a manager or lead of a team, that's going to diminish, right? You will maybe set the guardrails or the process or provide the main direction and ideas, but you might not have executed on everything, right, yourself. Please be honest about that. Of course, have like 1 or 2 projects in your portfolio that you did mostly yourself. So, right, hiring managers can really get a sense of your skill set and, your approach and experience. But it's actually really good to have some examples in there too of, where you did part of the process, like you worked with a team, you worked with other designers to move something forward. For example, maybe you were doing the interaction UX design. There was a visual product designer or a design system, right, designer you worked with, really on the visual design of it. That is a division of work that really encroaches on each other, right? The UX designer often, of course, gets into visual design of everything, and the design system designer, visual designer, they'll really think about interaction designer. Preferably, you can do both really well. But if you collaborated with somebody like that and it went well, that is a very good sign, right, of your collaboration skills, even in those sort of tricky situations where skills and scope might overlap. So really love to see that. Don't be embarrassed to really share that. Maybe it was even an example where you put a project on the right track and were briefly involved, right? It can be highly valuable as well. So be transparent about what you contributed, and don't be afraid to share things where only part of the project was yours, as long as you're open about it. The next one is an interesting one. It's a bit related to flexibility, but I always look for candidates who they don't come in with like a totally vanilla portfolio presentation and questions. They actually come in with some nuance based on the company that they're interviewing at. So they've thought about like, which project should I show for this company and are most relevant. They talk a little bit about like maybe how their UX philosophy connects, with this particular company and company values. They ask questions that are really trying to get to, this particular company, the team, and the process. Maybe they ask difficult questions about the mission and the future of the company, right? They're critical. They really want to make the right choice and be in a place where, their personal mission attaches to the company mission. So be prepared, please. Don't come with a vanilla or generic thing. Even I understand that's very efficient. Yeah, you might be interviewing at a variety of companies, That's a big turnoff for a hiring manager. And then the last thing I look for, and this is especially important in senior product and UX designers or UX leaders. It's also important with junior ones, and I talked about that a little bit in episode 1, is really that you're relentlessly positive, about the work that you do, about the impact of technology on society, about how, the human race is evolving over time. Positivity, right, takes you to many, many different places. There's nothing worse than, getting a candidate who's right off the bat, first conversation, jaded about, the impact of UX. Maybe they had some bad experiences in the past, the, collaboration with other disciplines, the speed with which innovation happens. Yeah, of course, there's tough things there, and it doesn't always work out the way you think, or it doesn't go as fast as you think. But I always look for people that can see the positive in that presume positive intent in others, presume things will work out, and really can work through tough problems that way, and are just a delight to work with, right? People that are positive, enthusiastic about new ideas. It's just a completely different type of person to work with. A healthy level of skepticism, of course, is great, but let's not make that the default and be jaded right off the bat. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the 3rd episode of what I look for when hiring UX and product designers. This concludes that series with 3 episodes. And I will do another series about what I look for when hiring UX researchers, as well as a series of principles or best practices that over the years I've used successfully, and I'll tell everybody about. All right. Well, thank you so much, and see you soon. Bye.